Let me show you how to open up Edgecam and put your part through that. So find Edgecam Launcher on the desktop, and we're going to open that. Then we're going to do new milling part. And once it opens, we need to find our file. I called mine Gigaflange, so make sure that you identify that. So if you right-click this, then you can kind of rotate that around. The first thing that we want to do is show Edgecam that there is a part in here. So this little icon here is stock fixture. It may not be in this location, but you're looking for this yellow box with kind of the two little squares on that. And so I'm going to click that, and auto stock should be selected, and it is on mine. So make sure it's checked and then click OK. Now we have a stock. There's kind of a light blue line that's surrounding this edge. Now remember, in the yo-yo, we made our 000 point right at the center of the yo-yo. We're going to make our 000 point right in this corner this time, and you always have to set that in Edgecam. So I'm going to go over to geometry and do create CPL, then click origin, and plane is through 3 points. Then check OK. So we need to do our first point. Our first point is going to be in this corner here, so I'll click that one. And that's kind of the front left corner. Our second point is the front right corner. Our third point is the back left corner. And then the new origin is back to this. Now you see I'm right clicking and dragging to kind of rotate this. It's a lot easier to see it if there's nothing behind it. So I click there. Now I have my CPL. I'm going to zoom in on that. You can see the little X arrow, or the X pointer, is along it's the red. So the red pointer is along the X direction, the green pointer is along the Y, and the Z is blue, and that's going straight up and down. That's what you want. So now that we have the CPL in there, we're going to find the features. So if we click this option here, it's called Feature Finder, and it's a little binoculars. Again, it may not be in this location, but it should be somewhere in your quick access. So click Feature Finder, and then just select OK. And it has found all these features. So if I hover over these, you can see that the red line is kind of selecting all these different components. Now that we have our CPL set, let's go over to manufacture mode. And our machine tool is ProLite 1000, and our datum type is absolute. Remember, when we coded our yo-yo as incremental or absolute, we want to leave this as absolute, because then if we ever have to do any edits, it's a lot easier to do. We know exactly where it is. So click OK on that. And then we're going to do a profiling. We're going to profile out this little notch outside of here. So if we go up to hover up here, you can find profiling. It's this one right here. Click on profile. And now it says, where do you want to profile? So let's choose this little slot. Now for me, it's this number 2 2D boss. It probably will be that for you also. So I'm going to click it one time, and then it's green. Now I'm going to hit the enter key once, and then I'm going to hit it a second time. So now it has selected that. So the first thing we need to do is change our lead radius to 0. Otherwise, it's going to carve out a little notch out of it. So we want that set to 0. Usually, I like to do a mill type of optimized, so it cuts both directions. When you're profiling, it really doesn't matter, because I don't believe we're going to go around more than once. But I like to set it as optimized, because we're only cutting wood here. So for feed rate, we're going to set this to 20. A plunge is always half of 10. And anytime we do wood, it can go incredibly fast. We're talking around 10 to 12,000 RPM. Our mill is maxed at 5,500. So we're just going to set it to that max. Our diameter of our bit that we would use for this is an 1/8 inch. It's 0.125. So we're going to pretend that we're using multiple different bits to do this. An 1/8 inch here, a little bit bigger for these other pieces. This current one is 0.125. And then the depth of cut, we want to set our cut increment to 0.125, also an 1/8 of an inch cut down per cycle around. If you cut too deep, then it's too much for that bit, and it kind of bogs down the machine. So we cut a little bit at a time. Then we click OK, and now you can see that that mill bit is right there. And if we look close, you can also see that there's two purple lines. That means it's probably going to have to go around twice to cut out that entire groove. The next thing that we need to do is mill out this little pocket. So that one is going to be roughed. And let's see, right here is your roughing operation. So I'm going to click that. And then the geometry I want for that one looks like it's number 5, 2D pocket. So I'm going to click that once and then hit enter 2 times. And now we come up to our operation dialog box. So I'm going to, again, keep this as optimized. That's a really good option for you. Percent step over is 50%. That just means that it will cut maybe one swath, and then it will move 50% of the bit size over to cut the next swath. Since we're doing wood and we're not going to go very deep, that's going to be just fine. Let's go to our tooling. We want to set this to 20 and 10. And I'm going to keep my speed at 5500, the max for that mill. Now for this one, we're going to use a 1/2 inch bit. So I'm going to make it a 0.5. And the depth, we're going to set a cut increment to 1/10 of an inch. Since the bit is so much bigger, we're not going to cut as deep this time. We're only going to cut 1/10 of an inch at a time. So again, it's not trying to cut too much material all at once. And then we hit OK, and it puts that in there. So how cool is that? Yeah! All right, so if you take a look carefully here, you're going to see this yellow dotted line and a purple dotted line. Those are two separate bits that the machine is moving in. If we had a ridiculously expensive machine with an automatic tool changer, it would do all that for you. But if you want to do multiple different tools, then your program will have to pause. You'll have to use the wrench, take the tool up, put the new tool in, start the program again. So it's a little bit more complicated when you're doing it with multiple tool changes. We're just simulating this, so it doesn't really matter. The last thing we need to do is put the holes in. So click up here under hole operation for milling and select the points. So that should be just blind hole. I click that once and then hit enter. This time you actually only need to hit it one time. The general information here should be good is the way that it is. So just kind of pause this, double check, make sure these numbers, levels, termination blind is all set. Then we're going to go to center spot. This tells us the depths. We need this to be a center drill. So check center drill. And we're going to do a depth, initial depth of 0. We don't want it to start at a depth. You can see a number more than 0 is a bad idea here. And then a plunge feet of 10. The diameter for this is a 1/4 inch because that's actually the diameter of the hole. So we're going to use a 1/4 inch bit. And then keep our speed at 5500. Then click OK. And that made the holes right there. So you have another 1/4 inch bit doing those. So everything should be set at this point. Now we just want to preview this thing. There's two options for this. There's rapid result, which just gives you pretty much the final output, and then there's simulate machining. I want you to do simulate machining so you can see kind of how it runs. Set your speed up here at about maybe 1/3 of the way through, and then hit play. And that bit will come in, and you can see it run one time, and then it cuts a little deeper the second time. Then we have our second bit come in, that 1/2 inch, and you can see it only cuts 1/10 at a time. And then our third bit, that 1/4 inch one, will come in and it will plunge. And I don't know why it just did it in 2 steps, but there we go. It looks like it worked just fine. So right now, that is a finished block. If we close this simulator up, if you want to save this code so that you can mill it in the milling machine, then you click Generate Code. And I'm just going to click OK. I don't need to actually identify any of this. And I'm going to put my name, Bob, and then click OK. Now if I have that part that's that size, the size of my Gigaflange, then you can see right here, here is your G&M code. We start at G90, there's a G80, they put some tool changes in here because we have some tool changes, and then off it runs. So it's going to run this code. So if you verify this in CNC Base, the same program that we use to edit the yo-yo, you would see something that looked just like this as long as you had the tools set in tool 00 and all of your tool library set according to what we did in here. So we're not going to go really that advanced, and we're actually not going to mill this. So at this point, when you see this and you've verified it, then you are all done with this particular project.